Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's licensing hearing. It's Thursday, the 22nd of April 2021, 10:30 a.m. And the licensing hearing we have today is a review of a license for Dino's Mini Market. Just before we go on, I'll do some introductions first. My name is Councillor Mudassir Dean, and I'm the chairman for today's meeting. I have my two fellow colleagues who are going to help me make a decision today, which are Councillor Cliff Morris and Councillor Anne Galloway. From an officer point of view, I need to make some introductions. We have Vicky Ridge, who's from committee admin. We have Patricia Klein here from the licensing team, Steve Morris from the enforcement team. We also have John McMurray, who's sending this meeting live and doing the IT in the background. And we have Linda Bainbridge from legal services, just in case we need any legal advice during the meeting. As well as that, we have a number of speakers. We have Andy Bolton, who is the applicant from Trading Standards. And we also have joining us is Leanne Richardson, also from Trading Standards, here to support Andy and if with any questions that may arise. We also have today representation from local councillor, Councillor Toby Hewitt, who will be putting his views and points forward. And finally, and importantly, we have the license holder with us and their representative, Mr. Puder. So those are the introductions. Before we move on to the procedure of the meeting, I just need to ask my fellow colleagues if there are any declarations of interest.
Not from me.
Okay,
No.
thank you. So before we move on to the main body of the meeting, I'll just briefly go through the procedure so everybody knows what's going on before we start. So first of all, we've received a report from the licensing team a number of days ago, and we've subsequently received further information more recently in the form of emails and videos that we've had to look at. So if there's anything in addition, we need to ask, or the licensing officer would like to add, we'll go through that initially. Then there'll be an opportunity for everyone, councillors, representatives, and the license holder and their representative to ask questions of the licensing officer. That's the first stage. Then we move on to listening to the applicant. So that's Mr. Andy Bolton. He's from Trading Standards. Once he's made his representation, we'll all have an opportunity to ask him questions. That will be followed by Stephen Morris, who is the enforcement officer. After his representation, again, we'll have an opportunity to ask questions. And then we go to the local councillor to make their representation. Once that's been done, again, questions to the council if there need to be any, and then it's over to the applicant and their representative to put their sort of views and case forward. And once that's been done, everybody again will have an opportunity to ask questions. Having done that, we'll all the people that spoke will all have a brief opportunity to summarise. And then my fellow colleagues and I will retire to make a decision. And once we've made that decision, the applicant will receive that decision in writing within the next 5 working days. Is everyone clear with that? Is the representative and the applicant clear about the procedure?
Yes, sir, we're clear.
Thank you. So what we'll do now is we'll move on to the sort of main body of the meeting. And as I said, we've received all the information over the last few days, and we've all had an opportunity to read that. But over to the licensing officer, if you'd like to add anything, Mrs. Klein.
No, thank you, Chair. You've covered the extra items that have been circulated.
Right, thank you. Do any of the councillors have any questions for the licensing officer? No. Right. Does anybody else have any questions for the licensing officer, including the licensee holder and the representative?
No, we don't.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the next item, which is representation from trading standards. So it's over to you, Andy. So can I have Mr. Andy Bolton, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I understand the panel has had the opportunity to look at the evidence that has been submitted and that you have also viewed the accompanying video footage. The reason for this application is that it is abundantly clear from the Council's investigations into Dino's mini market, officers have unearthed a catalogue of criminality connected to the business. As you've seen from the documentation and video footage, on the 20th of July 2020, 3 youths are seen attending Dino's mini market. A male member of the group is witnessed purchasing a box of nitrous oxide gas containing 24 canisters from the store, which he then shares with his friends. Bearing in mind that this is 10:30 AM on a Monday morning on a busy main road, all 3 youths are observed inflating balloons with gas from the canisters and are clearly seen inhaling the substance for recreational purposes. One member of the group is visibly affected and heavily under the influence of gas and can be seen staggering into the path of live traffic on St Helens Road. The individuals have no regard for their actions, and local residents and onlookers would no doubt have felt intimidated, alarmed and distressed by their behaviour. Several weeks later, on the 13th of August, an unannounced visit took place involving trading standards officers and Greater Manchester Police. During that visit, 600 small silver gas nitrous oxide canisters were discovered, along with 10 large 1 litre canisters. In view of the fact of the evidence that had been obtained from the camera footage 4 weeks earlier, all the gas products were seized and subsequently voluntarily signed over by Mr. Javid Astley when he was notified by officers of the incident involving the youth. On Thursday, the 11th of February 2021, a further visit took place at Dino's involving trading standards officers and Greater Manchester Police. During this visit, officers identified an illegal barbering operation running onto the rear stockroom of the business. This is an activity that was prohibited at that current time due to the COVID pandemic and the Tier 4 restrictions that were in place. Evidence of smoking was also detected due to the strong smell of tobacco smoke in the enclosed area and the fact there was a shisha pipe with ash residue in the tobacco vessel and extinguished cigarettes alongside. Smoking inside businesses is illegal under the Health Act and carries a maximum fine of £2,500. On further inspection in the interior area of the business, a large quantity of suspected stolen alcohol spirits was identified. The product had visible damage to the bottle caps, which is caused when security tags are forcibly removed during the act of theft. Both Greater Manchester Police officers and Trading Standards officers were fully satisfied that the product should be seized in view of the fact there was a suspicion the shop owner was in possession of a large quantity of stolen goods. Mr. Asley has failed to provide any form of proof of purchase that this product was purchased legitimately, despite being asked for evidence of invoices. In addition, on that same visit, a further 313 nitrous oxide gas canisters were found on the premises, along with a large quantity of balloons. During the search, a key belonging to a BMW was discovered beside the cash register. This was linked to a car parked directly outside the business. Officers discovered a large quantity of illicit tobacco amounting to 223 packets of cigarettes inside the vehicle, and also found several pouches of illicit hand-rolling tobacco. In addition, a further 288 small gas canisters and 42 large 1 litre canisters were found concealed in the vehicle. All of the aforementioned products were seized by Trading Standards that evening in agreement with Greater Manchester Police. On the morning of the 16th of March this year, an inspection of the highway took place directly outside Dino's mini market. During that assessment, a total of 19 discarded balloons and 10 spent gas canisters were found littered at the frontage of Dino's. A further 3 balloons and 4 gas canisters were found directly behind the building, discarded in the street. On the 8th of April this year, Neighbourhood Services Street Cleansing Department carried out a full mechanical sweep and litter pick of the area in front of Dino's and neighbouring businesses. All the gas canisters observed on the 16th of March were removed during this operation. A statement to this effect has been obtained by the team leader from that department. Only yesterday morning, a further inspection of the highway in front of Dino's took place, and 17 spent discarded gas canisters were visible just 13 days after the area was cleared by Neighbourhood Services. I'm sure you'll agree that what has been presented in evidence today in the bundle is illegal and totally unacceptable, which meets the test of the 4 licensing objectives that have been contravened, those being the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton. We'll go to questions now. I have the first question for you. Do you know, you mentioned there's a maximum fine of £2,500 for smoking on the premises. Was there a fine issued on that day for smoking, and how much was it for? How much have they been fined?
No, there's no fine available to issue on the spot for that particular offence. It is a matter that has to be dealt with via the court, so a court case would have to be put together and presented to the magistrates.
Right. And
However,
is that being done?
We will have to liaise with our colleagues in legal services. Although it is evidence that smoking has been taking place, we may need to obtain evidence of a lit product that has been smoked to continue with that particular process through the court.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. Do we have any questions from councillors for Mr. Bolton?
Yeah, the phone with
Councillor Morris.
There was illegal barbers there or whatever. Have they been fined for that?
Yes, they have. They've received a fixed penalty notice for the sum of £1,000 for operating an illegal barbers.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further questions from any other parties?
Yes, we have a question. We'd just like to know about the incident which took place on 2nd of July. How my friend can say that the person who went in the shop bought canisters because it's not physically visible from the video footage.
We're satisfied that that particular individual is observed going into the store empty-handed. He then appears with a bag in his hands from which he retrieves a box, which is clearly visible as nitrous oxide gas canisters. He then shares the contents of that box, i.e. the canisters, with his friends, who were then seen inflating balloons directly in front of the store. So we're satisfied that the gas was purchased from that store on that day.
That's fine.
No further questions?
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton, for your representation. We'll now move over to one of our enforcement officers, Mr. Stephen Morris.
Thank you, Chair. I'm aware that everybody present has had the opportunity to read my representation and view the CCTV footage showing incidents of antisocial behaviour, the use of psychoactive substances by young people, and of violent assault, and a further visit supporting colleagues in August last year. I've nothing further to add, but I'll take any questions that the committee or other parties present may have in relation to my representation.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Do we have any questions from councillors for Mr. Morris?
Not from me.
Any questions from anybody else?
No questions, Chair.
Right, thank you for that. Thanks, Mr. Morris. Now we move over to the local councillor, Councillor Toby Hewitt, who'd like to make representation. Are you there, councillor?
Yeah, I think he actually left the meeting, so I'm just going to admit him again.
There's somebody waiting in the lobby, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's in now, Chair.
Brilliant. Councillor Hewitt, are you there? Hello?
Sorry, he's leaving the meeting again.
Right, so there's obviously some technical issues.
Yeah, if you just give it a minute.
Yeah, we'll give it a minute, yeah. We'll just...
Thank you. I'm just going to admit him now, Chair.
Wonderful.
He should be in the meeting now.
Councillor Hewitt?
Apologies for that, Councillor Dean. My call seemed to drop. I don't know if you're still with Andy Bolton, but I did actually have a question for him.
All right.
Would that be okay?
Yes, of course.
I
Yeah,
am
fire
sorry
away.
if you've moved on, but no, it's just really poor timing on my network providers.
Right. No.
Partner.
Carry on with your question.
Yeah, sure. Andy, may I ask? Obviously, you detailed, you know, the seizures of the gas canisters, the you know, the high numbers of the nitrous oxide, both the small items and the larger canisters. In your experience, in context, how is that? Is it a large amount? Is it a small amount? Is it, or is it one of the biggest ones that you've seen? How would you describe it?
I would describe the seizures from Dino's as one of the most significant and largest seizures over the period of time that we've visited and discovered gas that we've come across in recent times over the past few years. Yes, it is one of the most significant that we've discovered.
I thought so, Andy. I just wanted to sort of just clarify that, and also really just thank officers for their work in making that seizure and highlighting what was going on there and what local residents have been telling us. Thank you for that, and thank you, Chair, for indulging me in asking. I thought it was important to establish the context of how bad that was. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Hewitt, it's over to you now to make your representation.
Oh, so it's my turn as well. Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you, Chair. Local people have raised to me the issues connected around this location with antisocial behaviour and what they always thought were illegal activities taking place around this location. This scourge of nitrous oxide use for personal use has been illegal since the Psychotropic Substances Act 2016, and we know the damaging effect it's having on vulnerable young children in our area, which is one of the, preventing harm to children is one of the licensing core strategies. I mean, I'd just like to say, as a local councillor, I've been approached by multiple local residents regarding this premises, the nature of the area, and as a hotspot for attracting this antisocial behaviour and crime. And I can back up what officers are saying about what they found there. Residents fear that allowing this to continue in the way it has will allow criminality in the area. One particular resident who wished to remain anonymous due to their fear of crime submitted to myself CCTV of the area outside of this property, taken on the 20th of March this year at 1 in the morning. The footage clearly identifies where they may be, so they fear it being seen. But they to describe that footage briefly, it shows swearing and aggressive confrontations taking place in the street, threats and to get and bring family members to seem to carry out a confrontation, threats of physical violence, large-scale swearing, banging of car doors, and various cars pulling off and pulling up to the location of the premises. The residents have stated that that's typical of what takes place on this stretch and in connection, they fear, to this property. Various volunteering groups and litter pickers have told me that they constantly find these gas canisters along this stretch. So I would just like to ask the panel to take the strongest action available to them in dealing with this review in this matter. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Do we have any questions from councillors for Councillor Hewitt?
Could I ask Councillor Hewitt?
Yes, Councillor Galloway.
Thank you. Could I ask Councillor Hewitt how long these complaints have been going on for? I've just noticed that Dino's Market just had a license for alcohol given to them just before lockdown in January last year. Do the complaints do they predate this? Are you there?
Thank you. Yeah, no, I've just come off mute. Thank you, Councillor Galloway. It's been an escalating problem in the last couple of years, I would say. More and more residents are mentioning this, but they also mention this premises in connection to what they believe to be other premises in the local area.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Galloway. Is anybody else that would like to ask Councillor Hewitt any questions? No. So now we move on to the next stage of the meeting, which is an opportunity for the licensee holder and their representative to put their case forward. So it's over to Mr. Puder.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'll just like to read out a statement provided by Mr. Astley in regarding to this premises review, and then you can have he will have an opportunity to say what he wants and also any questions for himself, and then I will summarize at the end of regarding this review. So firstly, he'd like to mention, I confirm that Dino's Mini Market is a retail shop selling groceries, alcohol and tobacco. The business trades as a sole trader. I have invested a good amount of money from my savings and borrowed from my friends and family to make this business a successful business. I've been trading just over a year now. I run and manage the business myself with 2 part-time staff who are directly employed by me. Previously, I was working from 8 till 6. And more recently, I'm working now from 9 till 7. Obviously, the business has a large operational hours. I can't be there all the time, so I have to employ part-time staff. The staff I employ covers the other operational hours required by the business. I would like to state the following facts in defense to the license held for Dino's Mini Market. In relation to the incident which took place on the 2nd of July, which was on video footage, where it's apparently seen 3 people outside the shop when one enters the shop and, as accused, comes out of the shop with some gas canisters. From what I saw of the footage, it's clearly apparent that one of the person who approached the shop had clearly a balloon in his hand, probably filled with nitrous oxide, and he was already under the influence of nitrous oxide or other illegal substance. The male did not, this male particular did not enter the shop, and he can clearly be seen puffing into a balloon as he approaches the shop. So Mr. Astley is saying they already were under the influence of nitrous oxide before even entering the premises. In relation to the incident referred to on 13th of August, I was present at the shop, and when the shop was attended by the officers, there was canisters behind the counter. I was informed that the canisters itself are not illegal, not an illegal product. We do have customers asking for, these canisters for baking and other purposes. However, on that particular day, I voluntarily surrendered the canisters to Bolton Council for destruction. Now, the fact that, yes, previously the shop had a visit for the canisters, and for me to keep hold of more canisters on the day, it's just that we were holding stock and more stock, and it was behind the counter, and we do get genuine requests, for bakery purposes. In relation to the incident referred to on the 11th of February about the alcoholic bottles with the tops damaged, these bottles of alcohol are usually purchased from local supermarkets, being Asda or Tesco. The nearest cash and carry is in Farnworth, and during the lockdowns it's been difficult to go there. Sometimes we must restock from Asda or Tesco locally. Mr. Astley suspects that some of the tops of the bottles have been damaged during transportation. On this day, one of the officers contacted him via phone. Mr. Astley says he was already in the shower, his phone was ringing, and his daughter passed on the phone to him. He answered the phone and tried to accommodate the officer as much as he could. He could not attend the shop immediately as he suffers from migraine and sinus, and once he's out of the shower, he must rest for about an hour before his body adapts to normality. I confirm I was not present when the officers identified the 4 males running an illegal barber shop. Since the visit, a fixed penalty has been issued, and I confirm that the fixed penalty is now being looked at. Now, he has no idea of who the 4 males are. After investigation, it's that they're friends of the other people who are employed by him. Necessary steps have been taken, and which will prevent this happening in the future. I further confirm that there is absolutely a no smoking policy inside the shop. The staff are employed and are aware that they strictly cannot smoke in the shop. The shisha bottle that was found in the back is simply used as an ashtray. The employees smoke outside the shop, and they throw the stub in the shisha on the top. That's why there were discarded stubs found on the shisha. Obviously, when somebody goes out to smoke in the back, the door is left open. Tobacco smell will appear into the business premises. In relation to the car belongs to a local person who works around the corner from the shop. He usually parks his car in front of the shop. Now, at the front of the shop, there is a 45-minute limit for parking your vehicle. Therefore, he leaves his keys in front with me, so I can move it if there's a warden. Now, in that area, he struggles to find parking. Now, he generally has to go to get parts, or has to leave, or he needs to he needs access urgently to his vehicle. So that's the reason he left his key with me at my premises. In relation to the video of the 2 males fighting, this is about the antisocial behavior. The 2 men and the lady who approached the shop are clearly seen arguing before they even entered the shop. I know both of the males, and it's a repeated argument. They seem to be fighting over something, either for the lady or something. They've always got a thing for each other. Something like this could have happened in front of any premises. It just happens to be their local shop. Yeah, I just believe the premises just happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. In relation to the gatherings at night, obviously the premises has a late license. The shop around the local area are all closed. It does get busy at nights because the sale at night time is mostly for alcohol. I can control the people in my shop. I can control what happens inside the shop, but I can't control what happens outside the shop. Numerous times I have contacted the police. Sometimes they come, sometimes they don't bother. And in general, you know, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I run a local business. I'm trying to comply to all UK regulations. What happens outside the shop is beyond my control. I'm prepared to work with the council and other authorities to make that place, make the area a better place. If my shop license is cancelled, then it will have a negative effect on the day-to-day financial running of the business and eventually force me to close the business. I'm very sorry for what's happened and the nuisance and what is caused to the local neighbouring community. Strictly speaking, my neighbours are generally retail shops. There are a few houses across the shop, and I would like to sincerely apologise to them if the premises is causing them a nuisance. And again, I'm free for recommendations. I'm willing to work with them as well. And I'm happy to make any necessary arrangements so that something like this does not happen again in that area. Lastly, I would like to say, please allow me to continue serving my local community. I'm an honest person, and you know, I want best for the area. I'm just going to give Mr. Astley an opportunity to speak from himself. Okay. He's just told me that everything's in that statement, so he has no other further comments. Any questions will gladly be answered.
That's fine. Thank you for that. So it's over to the councillors first. Do we have any questions from councillors?
Yes, could I ask a question? When
yes, Councillor Morris.
In the evening, how many staff are on? Just one or two?
Sorry, just repeat that again. You were breaking up.
How many staff when you're open in the evening, how many staff do you employ in the shop in the evening late on?
Okay, during the weekdays there's one staff that's employed, and on the weekends there's two staff.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Morris. Any further questions?
Could I just ask?
Yes, Councillor Galloway.
Thank you. Could I just ask, you know, after you had the visit from Trading Standards regarding the nitrous oxide, I am just wondering why, even though you had a large supply of the canisters, why you didn't decide that it was not worth keeping them for the purposes of, is it making whipped cream? I'm not sure, for baking purposes, because it's such a serious offence. I'm just surprised why the owner decided to keep them on the premises.
Sorry, go ahead.
Because you know, they are found constantly outside on the street. And so, which the owner must be aware of because he works there, and so he would be under suspicion, obviously, that they were coming from his premises, and I don't understand why he just didn't get rid of them all. However, you know how much money was tied up in it, because the suspicion obviously is going to fall on him.
Yes, thank you for that question. So Mr. Astley would like to say that some of these canisters were pre-ordered, were already ordered, and he didn't have a facility to cancel the order. So he was stuck with the order, and he had to basically keep them there and sell them for, as you said, for the whipping or for bakery purposes only. Now, because he couldn't cancel the order, the canisters were in the shop.
Oh no, I understand. Yeah, I understand that he already had it on order, but I mean, really, they should have been got rid of. If you've had a visit from Trading Standards in relation to these canisters, you would, you know, the rational decision would be to get rid of them.
Yeah, he's just saying that he was told that they're not illegal to keep, so he didn't think it was causing the council or any of the authorities any problems by just keeping them there.
Mm.
Illegal to keep it for food purposes.
Okay, so again he's saying, you know, he was told that it's not illegal to keep them in the shop and they are used for food purposes, so he kept them there just in case he had any requests for them.
Mm-hmm.
Leanne Richardson, may I interject? I was the officer at the time.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, he's saying that I did.
Sorry, Leanne, can do you have any questions?
Yes.
We're at the questions now. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. I did advise Mr. Astley at the time on the visit in August that he stated that they weren't illegal for sale if people were buying them for purposes such as cream making, etc. However, I did advise him at the time that we were in receipt of video footage showing that people were buying them and inhaling them at the time. So I did actually say to him that I would like him not to keep any canisters on the premises because he's got a responsibility to be a fit and proper person, and for that reason, because we've already found them, I advised him that he should not be keeping gas canisters on his premises at that time.
Thank you for that, Leanne. Yeah, he strictly apologises for the misunderstanding, and he just pointed out to me that they were on a pre-order. He couldn't cancel it. He didn't know who to contact, and he just left them there. And they weren't for the sale for nitrous oxide or any other illegal purposes. They were only there if anybody needed them for bakery purposes. He was going to, as soon as he could, voluntarily depart them.
Right. Well, I also found them in February. I was the officer that also attended in February, and they were also found in February as well. So,
Mrs. Richardson, this is an opportunity to ask questions. If you want to sort of make a statement, you'll be able to do that when we're summarising.
I do have questions.
Yep, that's fine. Carry on.
The alcohol bought from, in your statement, you stated that the alcohol bought was from Asda and Tesco. I asked Mr. Astley over the telephone when I spoke to him that evening to provide invoices. Mr. Astley stated to me that he was going to provide them the following day. I asked him to phone me when he was on his way, that I could meet him outside Ellesmere and he could provide me with those invoices. I never received a phone call, and I've never received any invoices either.
Yeah, his answer to that is, yeah, he goes to Asda and Tesco. He'll buy individual bottles along with any other items as well that he might need personally. So he doesn't keep the receipts, and he doesn't have any invoices because the bottles were not purchased from any wholesalers or cash and carries.
Well, at the time that I spoke to Mr. Astley stated to me that they were from Booker's. When I asked him where did he purchase them from, and he told me it was Booker's, and he didn't mention Asda or Tesco, which he's just mentioned in his statement.
Yeah, he does say he does have stock from Booker's in his shop. He does have invoices for them, but particularly some of these bottles that were found with the tops damaged, they were transported particularly from Asda or Tesco or local supermarkets. Yeah, he's also pointing out that sometimes Asda and Tesco have a good offer on as well, which is better than the wholesalers.
So does Mr. Astley not keep the invoices because under his licence conditions that they should be kept? So and obviously for tax purposes also. So I'm just wondering why the invoices weren't kept.
Yeah, he keeps the wholesale invoices, but the shop receipts he tries to keep them. But he's also pointed out that some of these shop receipts the wording or the writing distorts after some time, so you can't clearly visibly see what's on the receipt. So when he goes to the accountant says this is no good because I can't see anything on the receipt. But he usually writes it down on a notepad and gives it to the accountant.
So just to be clear, I took 27 litres of spirit. So if we're working on £10 a bottle, it's quite a good few £100, isn't it? That he's not going to be declaring to whoever.
You understand that he's saying that it's accumulated over a period of time, over a prolonged time. It's just not last week he goes and buys. You know, it's over a number of months or even weeks. So he's stockpiling when the good offers at Tesco and as they're coming in.
That's what I get it coming.
Yeah.
Okay. Regarding the no smoking policy, Mr. Astley stated in his statement that he has a no smoking policy. I'm just wondering if he got any signs up around the shop.
Yes, he has got signs in the shop. Yes.
Where are they?
Chair, it's Linda Bainbridge from Legal. I really apologise for interrupting.
Oh, no, that's fine.
I'm concerned that we're bordering on cross-examination here. That's not normally allowed in these hearings. If Miss Richardson has any questions, but the questions are sort of being put as cross-examination to the license holder.
Thank you for that, Mrs. Bainbridge. I have mentioned to Mrs. Richardson on a couple of occasions now that it's an opportunity to ask questions, and we don't want this turning into a discussion or cross-examination, as that's not allowed. So do you have any further questions, Mrs. Richardson?
No, thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. Does anybody else have any questions? Right, I just
yes,
like to ask. Sorry, just bear with me. Go on. Sorry, who was that?
It was Andy Bolton, Chair. Sorry to interrupt. If you'd like to go first, I'll...
No, Andy. No, please ask your question. Feel free.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I was just like to ask Mr. Asley that following a Bolton News article that appeared on the 24th of March, which was subsequent to the licensing application being submitted, a reporter attended the shop and asked him some questions, to which he claimed the barbering equipment was from the previous charity shop, which can't possibly be true because on the evening the officers attended, there was a barber in the process of cutting somebody's hair. I'd just like to ask him why he gave that explanation to the Bolton News.
Because I think, you know, because you know that day I didn't know her, she came for what. That's why, you know, I told her, and I didn't trust her to go to true or lie. That's why, you know, I told her.
So what he's saying is the media can manipulate stories, so he didn't know what she'll be writing. So that was the reason why he said the barbering equipment was already left by the previous owners of the premises.
Okay. Can I further ask Mr. Astley? He's mentioned that the spirits that clearly have damaged tops and some degree of scratch marks and grained and deformities. How can such damage occur when it's purchased from a local supermarket and transported back to his business? And we are talking about a wide variety of different brands of bottle here. It's not just one or two. We're talking a vast variety of different brands of spirits. How can that occur? We're talking real significant damage. Well,
he's telling me that there's an Asda just a walking distance from his shop. So they bought back in a carrier bag, and during transportation and walking, they're likely to be scratched. And the other supermarket, which is Tesco, which is on if you know, it's on Wigan Road, Bolton. He does go there as well. So they're being transported by either walking and they're in bags or they're in vehicles. And you know, his answer to that is yes, they do get scratched.
Okay. And can Mr. Astley also tell me why balloons are being found alongside such large consignments and quantities of gas that are being held in his store, when also there's visible signs of balloons littered up and down the frontage of the store on Sellings Road and discarded littered gas canisters. Can you explain to me why balloons are found with these gas canisters inside his business?
Well, Mr. Ashley would like to say that selling balloons is not illegal. He does have a stock of balloons in his shop. Now, what's found outside the shop is beyond his control. He has no control of, what to say to people, and the littering of the canisters and the balloons. He obviously knows that they're both used together, and he has no comments of why they've been littered. Obviously, the area itself predominantly looks like it's been used by people who use canisters, and he has an off-license agreement, and he stays open all hours. So he's like a local convenience store. So if they're not going to go to his shop, they can't go anywhere else. So that's the reasons for the littering outside the shop.
Okay, and just finally, the BMW key that was found in the premises at the time of the visit, can Mr. Astley provide the name of the person who the vehicle belongs to?
Yes, he can. What's his name?
David.
Yeah, he can. For now, he knows.
Can I just say there might be a legal issue there in raising somebody else's name. So could we take some advice from Mrs. Bainbridge? I mean, for GDPR purposes, if you could just.
Yeah, I think the question can be answered without giving the name of the individual who owns the vehicle. I think the licence holder referred to a male earlier that lives nearby or parks outside the shop. I don't think he has to name the individual car owner.
Okay.
Yes, he does. Sorry, Chair. He does know who the car belongs to, and he does have a first name. He can, for the purpose of this review, can provide a full name later on after the hearing, after the review.
That's name David.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Bolton, for your questions. I just have one further question to ask. These canisters, 300 plus, that were found, where does Mr. Astley purchase them from?
Okay, it's an individual who goes around to each shop and sells them and promotes them.
Right, and does he have invoices for those? Does he give invoices?
No, he doesn't give invoices.
Okay, thank you for that.
It's a cash on delivery.
Right, so it's so basically it's another thing that's not going through to the accountant in the form of paperwork.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that.
Chair, it's Stephen Morris. Could I just ask a couple of questions, please, if you don't mind?
Yes, of course you can, Mr. Morris.
It's a question directed to Mr. Astley. Mr. Astley, do you keep a refusals register at your premises for people that you refuse service?
Yes, he has a register in his shop for underage sales and for refusals as well, yes.
Okay.
He's got the register with the help of the council.
Okay, thank you for that. In his submission, he mentioned something, it's a regular couple. I'm referring to the particularly violent, sickening incident that happened outside the premises. But in the submission, it was stated that they are a couple and they always seem to be arguing. They have a thing for each other, I think was the terminology. Has Mr. Astley ever considered banning these two people or barring these two people from service in his shop?
Well, what Mr. Ashley is saying is inside the shop, they don't cause any problems. And they're regular customers, so he does know what's happening because he's there on a daily basis. He can put one and one together and see that there is a feud or a disagreement with them.
And I never involve myself to outside.
And he never involves himself with what happens with the outside. he doesn't want to interfere into their private matters.
Okay. Just one last question. You mentioned that you report many incidences to the police. Just query what incidents are reported and how often, and is there a record that Mr. Astley keeps?
We keep a record for incidents that happen.
Record outside or inside. If it's anything inside, I write them.
Okay, yeah. So he only keeps a record for like refused sales. No records for every time he's called the police. But when he feels that it's out of hand, that's when he would contact the police for help.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thanks, Mr. Astley.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Anybody with any further questions before we move to summary?
Chair, it's Councillor Hewitt here.
Yes.
Just one quick one. I'd just like to ask, when I speak to local residents and they say that they see people leaving this premises with these canisters and they see them using them and they see the effects on their community of them, and they know, or they say to me that they can could walk in there and get one of those canisters for human consumption if they so wished. Everybody knows where it's going. What impact does the representative think that has on his being in the community as a fit and proper person, and that their business is thought of in that way by many residents locally?
Mr. Ashley basically thinks that he is put on a blame mission by the local residents. They blame him for everything, for the antisocial behaviour, for the littering. Yeah, you know, they're always telling him every little bit. So it's like the local residents are pinpointing him and accusing him of everything that happens in the area. It falls back onto because of Mr. Ashley's premises. And he just says it's very unfair on him. He's trying to run a business. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any further questions? Right. Okay. I think we've had quite a long and healthy debate. I think everyone's had enough time to put their cases forward. So we now move over to the summary stage, and I do hope everyone's going to be quite brief and succinct on taking this stage forward. So just to go to the licensing officer first.
I have nothing further to add. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Bolton.
Thanks, Chair. In view of the condemning evidence that has been presented to members and the level of criminality associated to this business, we would urge the panel to consider revoking the licence to sell alcohol at the premises under the fit and proper person test. The activity of this business is having a severe and devastating impact on the quality of life of local innocent residents who live in the area. It is clear that profit is being gained from illicit means and no consideration of the impact this is having on the community, individuals and agencies such as Bolton Council and Greater Manchester Police who are tasked with combating criminality. None of this is taken into account by Mr. Astley or his associates. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton. Mr. Morris.
Nothing further from me, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Hewitt.
Just say, Chair, that just I would ask the panel take the strongest action that they can in dealing with this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Puder or Mr. Astley, would you like to summarise now, please?
Yeah, can I just ask for a minute? Mr. Astley's just gone out to the room. He's got a bit of a cough, so I'd just like to be with him while he's present in the room. If you just give me a moment, please, yeah?
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Just come back to us as soon as he's back in the room.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. He's back with us. Hello.
Hi there.
Yeah, sorry, he's back with us. So yeah, I'd like to summarise on behalf of Mr. Astley. Obviously, the matter is very important to Mr. Astley and realises the seriousness of today's review. He has previously taken steps to prevent crime and disorder, and he will always try to increase his awareness in public safety. His main priority is prevent public nuisance and also to protect children from harm. He is willing to cooperate with Bolton Council and other authorities in any way which he can, even with the local councillors' involvement. He wants to better the area. It is argued that the facts given the facts, the premises licence should not be revoked or cancelled, and Mr. Astley should be allowed to continue to trade. The overriding objective of this review is to deal with the matter fairly and justly. The premises does have a late licence opening. People use the shop frequently. Other nearby shops are closed. It is the focal point during the night time, and it's unfair to basically pinpoint this shop as the perpetrator. He understands that his neighbours are all ganging on him. He believes that the canisters are purchased from other shops locally and not his, and they've just been littered in front of the shop. His thoughts are, I can only control people when they're in my shop. I can't do what they do outside the shop, but he is willing to work with the council and other authorities to make the area a better area. His main priorities are to prevent crime and disorder, giving public safety, prevent public nuisance, and to protect children from harm. He understands all this, and he pleads with the review that he is allowed to continue trading from his premises. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Puder, for that summary. And now we're moving over to the stage now where we're going to retire to make a decision. That decision will be sent to the licensee holder in writing within the next 5 working days. So you won't find out about it today, but you'll get a letter through the post within the next 5 working days. Can I thank everyone that's made a representation today? And can I now please ask you to leave the meeting by hanging up, and it'll just be the panel now with a legal advisor to make a decision. So thank you everyone for attending today, and can we also switch off the live coverage? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much.